Welcome to the Cyber Gizmo. I'm DJ Ware. Today we're going to delve into Btrfs. I've been asked by a lot of you to do a video on, hey, why don't you tell us about what you think of Btrfs and help us understand it better. So here I am. I'm going to do it. I've only had this channel since, 2019, and I haven't really sat down and done a dedicated video to Btrfs. Modern file systems are designed to be flexible and robust. Btrfs is one of those. It is definitely a modern file system. It is flexible. It is robust in most instances, and we'll talk about those. It's perfect for snapshots and backups and advanced storage setups. So whether you're a desktop user, a developer, or now they recommend that you could use this on servers. I wouldn't recommend that. But Btrfs is not an enterprise file system, in my humble opinion. Btrfs has something to offer, and in this video, we're going to explore how to set it up, how to manage snapshots. We're going to do some elementary performance tuning. To go much further with that, we're going to have to delve really deep under the covers. So if you want an advanced class in performance tuning, let me know in the comments below, and we'll see what we can do. But just understand that is not going to be for beginners. In this video, we're going to try to avoid some of the common pitfalls of Btrfs. I always like to talk about the history of where things come from so you have an understanding of, hey, this didn't just pop up out of the blue and all of a sudden appear out of nowhere to become one of the candidate file systems for Linux, the default ones, that is. So Btrfs was originally proposed by an IBM researcher known by the name of Ohad Roda. And it wasn't Btrfs per se, it was more of, hey, we need to move to B-tree file systems, kind of in a generic sense. And he presented a paper in 2007 at the Usenix conference. I'll put a link here to his presentation notes, his pitch, and you can see what he was actually talking about. One of the attendees at that conference was an engineer by the name of Chris Mason. Chris was working on Riser SF for SUSE at the time, and Chris Mason joined Oracle that same year in 2007, and it was at Oracle he convinced them to back the development of a B-tree-based file system that they called Btrfs, or B-tree file system. The slang is Btrfs, and I'm not going to go into all that. But so in 2008, the principal developer of ext3 and ext4 file systems, that would be Theodore Tiso, said ext4, this is when it was being released, has improved features, but it's not a major advance. He said ext4 is old technology. This is a stopgap. And Tiso recommended that we move to Btrfs because that's a better direction, since it offers improvements in scalability, reliability, and ease of management. Tiso said that Btrfs had a number of the same design ideas that Riser FS version 3 and 4 had. So today you have both Fedora and OpenSUSE as the using the default Btrfs on their file systems for root. Btrfs is considered safe to use in most configuration, with the exception of two. The developers of Btrfs still have warnings if you implement RAID 5 or RAID 6. Those are currently marked if you go to their documentation on their website, they are plainly marked as unstable. They further recommend, and I'll show you, they further recommend to be used only for testing and not for production use. That's the reason why I don't recommend Btrfs for enterprise use, is because Enterprise typically want the redundancy features of RAID 5 and or RAID 6. We also have issues that are present today in other configurations. I'll leave a link below that you should review because there are workarounds, there are warnings that you need to review depending upon what you do with Btrfs. And there's some recommended best practices in there as well. With that being said, let's break for a second and let me show you how to install the tools that you're going to need for Btrfs. The tool that we need, I think, is Btrfs progs. Yeah, right there. I already have it installed, but you'll need to install that. That has your utilities for actually setting up the drive that you'll need. So, yeah, so this is basically your first step. And if you aren't familiar from the command line how to do that, it's pretty easy. You have to be sudo to do this. It's just going to tell me I already got it installed. And okay, there. So it says it's already there. So I have version 6.6.3. Your version could be different, depends on what version of a distro you're using. And of course, that happens to be the same name on Fedora as well. So Btrfs-progs. I don't know about Arch. It might be the same. You'll have to check. So the first thing that I want to do, and this my system, this particular system flips my drives around every time there is a change to one of them. So if I create a file system, it'll flip the naming of the two NVMe drives. So I'm going to have to use UUID to be able to get the right one when I do a mount on it. So yeah, otherwise I risk damaging my root file system, which I don't really want to do. So let me just list here. We'll see where it put it. Yeah, we'll see where it put it. So okay, that's the internal drive. It's on N1. That's the drive I want, which is E0. So at the moment it's set on E0 and 1. So all right. So we'll go to fdisk, and if I can type right today. And we'll do device NVMe 0 and 1. And we'll print it out. There's nothing here at the moment. Make sure you're using a label for GPT. All right, so we have that. We have a signature here already. That belongs to Btrfs, but we're going to override it. All right, so next thing we want to do is a make file system. And we better check and see where it put it. Now you can do it this way, or you can do the mkfs.btrfs. You can either way. And we want to tell it that we want, and 1, P1. Now it's creating the file system for us. This will take a minute. And then it should print back what our UUID is, because we'll need that to mount it. So I'm just going to grab that right there. Otherwise, it'll switch. I know it will. At some point, it will. Okay, it tells me that the file system is 3.64 gig, and we're ready to mount. Now, I have to determine where I want to mount this. All of the old utilities will still work. Let me get my UUID in here. Let's put it on server. We'll make it neat. There we go. This probably will mount it, so it should already mount it. Yeah, it did. So I have it done, and it's mounted up, and we're ready to go here. So, all right. So we've got our mount up and running, but there's a couple of things that I would like to do here. Now I can leave that default there. That's fine, but I want to do a compress equal, let's use ZSTD. There's a number of them you can use, but we'll use the standard for now. And I want to turn on auto defrag. Yes, Btrfs does require periodic defragging, and no A time, no access time, in other words. And you got to do it this way now. All right, so it's mounted, and hopefully it's mounted with what I need, right? So we can do and we can check that. So you can see that it is compressing. Now this is how aggressive the compression is, that number. You'll notice a couple of other things here that I did not specify, but they came from the defaults. So SSD is, yes, that's true. Discard equal async, space cache equal V2. That's the default. You want that one over V1. They're not compatible. V1 and V2 space cache are not compatible. That is, if I set it up with V1 and then I try to change it to V2, it will automatically destroy the V1 cache and recreate it. Auto defrag, volume ID. The next thing we're going to talk about are subvolumes. You can think of subvolumes like they're partitions, but they're way more flexible. So let's create a subvolume named data under our SRV directory. So right now, this is what we have in SRV. Nothing. So we're going to do a sudo Btrfs. We're going to do subvolume. Create SRV. I think I have to put, see, I'm used to the way ZFS does it. All right, so it should have created it. And there it is. If I do a H, we're not going to see it because that's not a mount point. You can do it. Let's say that I have more than one under there. So we'll just change this create to a list, and then we should see the subvolumes. It says it's path data. If you need to delete one, there it goes. It's gone. So I need this because we're going to go on to the next one. But yeah, if I do a list, now I don't have anything there. So, all right, so let's get my create back because I need that. Yeah, in our next thing here. So you want to structure your subvolumes wisely. So, for example, you want to isolate data from your backups. And, you know, the way that Btrfs kind of wants you to do backups is contrary to the way I think. I never back up to the same file system that I am trying to create the backup for. The reason I do this is if there were a problem with a future version of Btrfs, I may not be able to get access to my data or my backups. So I don't back up to Btrfs. I back up to XFS or ZFS, anything other than Btrfs. I've just learned that over time. I have the scar tissue that it taught me that lesson a long time ago. And so I'm passing that along to you, is that I don't consider it wise to back up to the same file system type as the one you're trying to save your data for. Remember, the data is the most important thing that you have on your file system. Snapshots are definitely a key feature of Btrfs. They're instant, they're space efficient, and to create a snapshot of this data volume, all we have to do is we do our Btrfs command. We're going to do, this is part of the sub volume, and we're going to add a snapshot, and we're going to use SRV data, which is the volume, the sub volume that we want to create this snapshot for, and we're going to create one called data underscore snapshot. Now, you might want to give this a date if you're collecting snapshots so that you know how old that snapshot is, but yeah, okay, so it did it, and let's see, we don't have any data out here, but there's my data and my snapshot. Don't consider snapshots a backup. It's not. It's a convenient place where you can put something to roll back if you need to. If you have some kind of program that you're running that's doing an update and you just need a convenient way to roll back from what that program did to your data space. But I would not consider this a backup, and you shouldn't either. How do we list the snapshots? Well, they should show up. Remember this? Yeah, they'll show up in that same list, where because they're a part of the tree, right, from where we're coming down. Okay, so I'm going to create a snapshot on this volume called SRV data. I have moved some test data over here, and so we'll go ahead and do that. And so I now have a snapshot. If I want to find out what is here, I can look at all of the snapshots and actually everything that's a subvolume as well. So I can do a Btrfs subvolume list everything on SRV, and there is my stuff. Now you can see that I put some random files over here that were generated off of a benchmark that I ran the last time I did a video on file systems. And so, yeah, I just went ahead and moved that data over. It's not, it's not a lot. Make that snapshot read-only. Now it's set to read only. Now what I should be able to do is to send it. That just prevents us from writing into the snapshot until, it's done. So we should be able to look at, backup now has 1.1 gig on it. That's because compression is on. And there's my random files. So one of the GUI utilities that you can use to manage your Btrfs systems, your file system, is Btrfs Assistant. So what we'll do is we'll bring that up. I've already installed it, so it's asking me for my sudo password. And there we go. So you'll notice that right now it's listing the files as their UID. So if you want to know what that is, you do ls block and a -f, and that'll tell you there's my Btrfs and there's my backup. It'll show you the current UUID for that. So you know that this one is SRV. I wish this would show you the mount. That would really be helpful, but it doesn't. So, and then if you want to switch to the other drive, you just click it and bring it up. So you can do things like I can refresh the data. I can enable quotas if I want to, prevent anybody from storing anything above a certain size. These are my subvolumes, and again, it's listing by the UUID. So I have data and snapshot, and then this is the snapshot we just backed up. Basically, we replicated over to our other machine. And if you want, you can clear the flags here, or I can delete the snapshot if I'm done with it, and and create a new one. If I want to do maintenance, I can do a balance operation, a scrub. This just checks for errors, and then a defrag, and I can tell it daily, weekly, or monthly when to do it here. So let's say we want to do a scrub weekly. Let's say monthly for that. I usually do my scrubs on ZFS monthly. Defrag will do monthly. Okay, so that set up my maintenance schedules. So now you can see I could start one manually. And it's telling me which UUID it's working off of, which is the current one I have in display here. No errors found. We can go to here and run one there. It's done. No errors found. I don't think this is going to do anything. It might. Okay, done. It did do something. Okay, so I did balance it. And that's it. That's what it'll allow you to do. So this makes it a lot easier. There's what about backups though? Well, if you want to do backups other than doing, replication, that now you'll notice that did not have any replication in it. So for that, we're probably going to want to do Timeshift, would be my guess. I don't think that's installed. Let me look. There it is. No, it isn't. So we'll install it. Let's go through a few things. So I guess the first thing to tell you is if you are working on large data sets and you find that copy on write is really slowing things down, it is possible. Now, the way I would set this up would be I would create a subvolume specifically for large databases, because this is a parameter that you set according to the subvolume or according to the mount point. So you'd probably, let me just show you what I mean. So All right, we'll call this big files. And what I'm going to do is let me see who root owns it. And I want to do a chatter, a plus C, and then SRV big files. And that should allow me to disable copy on write for that particular volume. If you want to, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but if you want to do it from the command line, you can do a scrub start on SRV. And I think you can do a status, which by now it should be done. Yeah, it's finished. And it'll show you the errors and stuff. If you want to do a balance, it's kind of the same way. Oh, not balances, balance. There we go. And this time it'll kind of show you. It's done. If you do regular scrubbing and balancing, that helps to maintain your performance and your integrity. It also checks, Scrub's going to look for errors. And then you have balance, which is going to try to improve the performance of things. What about if you start encountering issues? So let's cover that. So you can do, and this time it's going to be against the device. It's mounted. Yeah, we better. Remember, that's our SRV. So it'll check through there. It confirms that, hey, that's my UUID. And then we can mount it back. And we can do the same thing with our backup. You can do that one as well. That's on P2. And that's it. If you're running out of space on a particular volume, you could try running a balance to see if that will help kind of consolidate some of the blocks together. You could also try a defragment exercise and try to do that too. So there's also logs that you can look at that'll kind of help you understand. Oh, well, it might help if I was root. There's nothing in them right now, so yeah. It hasn't it hasn't spit any errors at me, so. But yeah, so that should give you some kind of help in the general sense of things. So my final thoughts on Btrfs. Btrfs, we've talked about some of the what it is, some of its history, and some of the capabilities that it has. We certainly haven't covered all of them. But Btrfs, I think you can agree, is a powerful and a flexible file system that has a lot of different use cases that will solve problems. Now, this is my opinion, and only my opinion, I don't think of Btrfs as being viable for enterprise file systems. And that's mainly because it doesn't support RAID 5 and 6, which you need for redundancy. I would never go into. Typically, in enterprise, you have uptime requirements like 5 nines or 6 nines. Btrfs is not ready for that kind of an environment, nor would I put it there. But on desktop or home labs, yeah, it's perfect for that. Whether you're protecting data with snapshots or not, that's up to you. I mean, my personal preference is I back up to an external system using rsync. It's just I don't want to rely on the underlying file system type, because what if ZFS, in my case, breaks and I can't get access to the drive anymore? Well, where's my data? How am I going to get it back? Maybe I need it. So, and the same is true with Btrfs. That's putting your eggs all in one basket. You want to, when you're working on backups, you want to diversify as much as you can. You may even want to go as far as not using the same distribution to back up to. I back up to BSD from Linux. So because it's less likely that BSD and Linux are going to have the same problem at exactly the same time. It's also unlikely that I would not get access to my data in the event that I needed it because of a bug in a particular version of the file system. So in this case, I'm on 6.6 version of Btrfs. If 6.7 comes out and it breaks something and I need to be able to roll back, how am I going to do that without first rolling back the package? So yeah, anyway, whether you're protecting your data with snapshots or optimizing performance using scrub and rebalance operations or defrag, or whether you're exploring other advanced features that are in there as well, there's so much more, like, performance tuning. So there's so much more you can do with Btrfs than what this video will show you. So let this just be a start for you to explore it on your own. There's a wealth of knowledge that's out there. There's a lot of documentation that you can go through if you want. The Arch Wiki has quite a bit on Btrfs. There's also a lot of documentation in the OpenSUSE libraries on Btrfs that will help you. And Fedora also has quite a bit on Btrfs that will help you as well. So, but if you found this video helpful and maybe, you're interested in other things about Btrfs or other file systems in general, let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see. I'm here to help you. So with that, please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video, and bye for now.